Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I rise this evening to speak in relation to the need to ensure that Australia's democracy remains a pluralistic, liberal and inclusive democracy which values freedom of thought, worship, association and speech as fundamental rights. Now, there has been much interest in the media regarding a story about people of the Christian faith being denied membership of the Liberal Party in South Australia this week. I don't support this decision. In my view, it sets an undemocratic and dangerous precedent in politics and says to the world at large that exclusion of Christians is okay. But there is much larger proposition here at play, and one which is worth considering because, of course, the first organised Roman persecution of Christians was ordered by the Emperor Nero in 64 AD, who blamed the Christians for the Great Fire of Rome. From the 7th century in the Middle East, large communities of Christians were forbidden to display a cross in order to convert to Islam. And during the 1920s, pursuant to the orders of Lenin, Christians on the Russian Orthodox Church were targeted, seeking to send a blunt and remove the religion as a competing doctrine to communism. So we would be foolish to think that the persecution of Christians is a matter which has been consigned to the history books. Sadly, around the world, that persecution is alive today. And in fact, in 2021, worldwide, 13 Christians were killed for practising their faith so far. 12 churches had been attacked and 12 Christians had been attacked in themselves. Now, Australia is a country founded on Judeo-Christian values, and over the past 2 years, state parliaments across the country have been passing radical social policy laws, laws which many Christians, understandably, believe are direct attacks on their faith. Religious freedom is under attack in state parliaments and is systematically being set aside in favour of a new social justice identity politics style of ideology. In fact, wokeness is beginning to function as the new religion, as the values which have served us well are placed under attack and being forfeited day by day. The Change or Suppression Conversion Practices Act, recently passed in Victoria, represents an attack on religious freedom in the most egregious form in Australian legislative history. Similar bills have been introduced in Queensland, the ACT and South Australia is likely to see its own version later in the year. Euthanasia legislation has been passed in Victoria, in New South Wales, in Tasmania and Western Australia, and a similar bill has just been passed in my home state of South Australia. Now, 63% of South Australians rejected the introduction of a late-term abortion bill in February 2021. Yet South Australian State Parliament passed that bill to allow abortion to the moment of birth. Christians are Australians too. In fact, they make up 52% of our population, and they deserve a voice inside the machinery of politics. In fact, it was Sir Robert Menzies, who was himself a Christian, who in 1960 said, "If I were, as I am not, an atheist or an agnostic or some other such unhappy person, I would still take the Bible with me to a desert island for 2 reasons. 1, that I would have a noble piece of literature to accompany me, and 2, because given an ample opportunity to study it, I might cease to be an atheist or an agnostic." Christians should neither exclude themselves nor be excluded from party politics, as was the case in South Australia last week. The Christian faith values family, industriousness, community and justice, the very same values which are held dear by the centre-right of politics in this country. So, to the Christian community of South Australia, I want to apologise for the events of last week. There are many like-minded people in South Australian politics, like myself, who value you, your communities and your contribution to our state. If we are to ensure that Australia remains a truly inclusive democracy, then Christians cannot be allowed to be thrown to the lines in the area of politics anymore. Menzies would be appalled.